The night I first saw room 13, it felt like someone had carved a cold coin out of the air and handed it to me. That's the first thing I remember, metal taste in my mouth, like pennies or fear. If you only have 10 seconds, I was pushed through that door the same way you might be pushed into the deep end of a pool, arms flailing, lungs burning, and everyone pretending they didn't see you drowned out. My parents, Asha and Vikram, stood at the doorway like gladiators who'd lost the map. Study, my father said. Make us proud, my mother echoed, folding their shame like a letter and stuffing it into my hands. I promised them everything, but promises don't stop a room from smelling old. Room 13 smelled like smoke that remembered laughter. They shoved me inside and left. The corridor hummed with the low bright cruelty of students, whispers, pointed looks, the kind of attention that's not curiosity but inventory. A girl, Nisha, came running after them, breath ragged. Don't put her in there, she begged. That room is wrong. My parents ignored her. We aren't superstitious, my father said, as if conviction could erase the way the other kids parted from room 13 like they were stepping around a puddle of something living. That first night, I sat on the narrow bed and curled around my knees. I am not brave. I am not dramatic. I am 12 years too tired for melodrama. Yet the knocks started before I could sleep. Heavy at first, then playful, the kind of knocking that wants to make you perform. Open up, little queen, someone called. First night, you have to dance. My throat closed like a fist. I opened the door. No one. The corridor was empty, just a single smear of light that smelled like spilled perfume and disappointment. Then a voice slid from the dark, not from the hallway, but from the room itself, mocking, bitter. First night, huh? Show us a little dance. I slammed the door. My hands trembled until they shook the beads of sweat off the sheet. They banged until midnight. Then the night did what nights do. It pretended nothing happened and folded me into silence. Sleep arrived by exhaustion, and if you've ever slept with your mouth open on fear, you know what I mean. You wake up and your throat tastes like someone else's last words. I woke to whispering. A second voice, too soft to belong to any of the girls down the hall. It said my name like it was peeling it off my skin. The next day, Nisha found me in the common room. You should switch rooms, she said, forcing casual like it could anesthetize me. 13 has history. I laughed then, the wrong kind of laugh, the kind that cracks. That night the room spoke louder. Things moved just out of sight. A shadow slipped under the bed, crawled up the wall like ink. I ran to the door and found it locked from the inside. I banged until my palms were raw, and then the world moved toward me like a wave. I blacked out. When I came to, my phone was in my hand and my voice was ragged with the kind of pleading that makes mothers answer. Dad, please, get me out. His voice was the echo of other people's patience. No excuses, he said. You made your choice. The words were a blade I could not dodge. I started to hear things that didn't belong to the present. A laugh that wasn't mine. A girl calling for help that sounded decades old. Nisha's face blurred and then split into another face, older, burned at the edges, hair tangled like smoke. She said my name from the other side of the room and then, with the same voice I'd heard on the phone, called me, come over. Let's go to the mess hall. I was shaking so hard my teeth rattled. Later, in the daylight, I searched. There are rumors in every hostel like roots under the floorboards. I typed the words into my phone with fingers that could barely focus. Room 13 Godavari Hostel. The results were a smear of old newspaper clippings and gossip. A girl named Mira, fragile, obsessed, the kind of person who gives everything and expects nothing, fell in love with a senior. She was rejected. They say she lured him into a room and set something on fire. The boy escaped, she didn't. The story didn't end there. It gnawed onward. People said Mira blamed everyone. People said she burned because love turned into a hunger she couldn't contain. The more I read, the less I understood. The more I tried to help Nisha, to tell her to leave, the more the room tightened around us. One evening, when Nisha and I were together, a smell hit the room like a fist, charred sugar and hair. the coppery stench of flesh that has been betrayed by flame. The door slammed itself shut. The lights died as if someone had taken a breath and held it. I will not forget the shape that came for Nisha. It was all elbows in history, and before I could scream, it was in front of her. It grabbed her throat with hands that smelled of coal and regret. "You left me," it hissed. "You left us to burn." The words were less than words, they were a verdict. I was frozen, watching the impossible. The figure squeezed, and Nisha's eyes rolled back into hollows of red. Her body collapsed sideways with the finality of a sentence pronounced. After that, the room stopped pretending. It unlatched its teeth. It moved through the hostel in the raw, prioritizing those who had been jostled by Mira's story, the girls who saw something and did nothing, the boy who survived, the watchman who smelled smoke and told tales. One by one, people who came into room 13 seemed to vanish like notes dropped between piano keys. I watched it happen, a scream, a beat of flailing limbs, then silence that smelled of iron when the guard, Rena, and Tara came to clear the room. I watched their faces fold into disbelief. I should have run. I should have screamed. Instead, I saw the ghost look at me, not accusing, not pleading, and say something that sank into me like an undertow. "You will tell it," she said. "You will carry it." I crawled toward the window like a child trying to scale a cliff. I thought I could escape gravity by jumping. I thought I could outrun a story. The fall cracked my bones and time folded. For a breath, I woke in a white place with an operating room number over the door, 13. The smell was disinfectant, and another smell too, the one that followed me like a promise. Then I was back. Back on that bed with blood under my nails and a phone that said 1 week had passed, a week I could not remember living. When the door finally opened, it was the same faces, Rena, Tara, the guard. But grief does strange things. They blamed, they panicked. They shouted. The room answered with a violence that felt almost bored. The ghost moved like water through their bones, the guard's neck snapped like a twig, Tara's eyes became empty wells, Rena's fingers met the same fate as the stories had predicted. When the room finished, it looked at me, and the creature, Mira, whatever she had become, told me with a smile that was carved from ash, "You will stay. Not because I need another witness, but because my story wants company." And here's what I know now, sitting under a light that hums with the same tired electricity as the hostel hallways, stories live in rooms. They salvage listeners. They feed on the small kindnesses people deny each other. When someone walks past a shiver and calls it superstition, the shiver collects into something that remembers names. Mira remembers. Room 13 remembers. And I remember because they left me with the task of telling you that I could end by begging you to believe me. I won't. Instead, I'll ask you something harder. If you ever find yourself asked to ignore a frightened voice, what will you do? Walk away? Or will you open your door, step into a small dark and try to say, "I see you"? If you've ever lived through something that felt like a room, a place that kept your breath and would not give it back, tell me in the comments. Share this story if it made your skin crawl. And if you ever find a hostile corridor that whispers your name, don't pretend it's nothing. Sometimes the smallest act, answering the knock, can be the difference between carrying a story and becoming one.